everyone. It's been a while since I was here in London, so it's very impressive for me to see that there's this packed hall here. Yes, I returned from Australia in 2004 and was given this unique opportunity to start my own research center, which now celebrates its 10th birthday. It's the Institute of Network Cultures. What we've done is set up research networks that kind of critique and also organize. So it's not just critique. We also try to intervene and build networks of researchers, activists, artists, designers, programmers. Right? That's maybe the next 5 minutes. Tactical media legacy. It's very, very important. I cannot live without arts. I cannot think of a world without aesthetics. This is very, very important. And of course, where we are based in the Netherlands, design is very important. These are kind of organizing disciplines and structures that we bring together. Here you see a project from 2011 on Wikipedia. This is a recent one on ongoing one together with the comrades in Vienna on the politics and aesthetics of search engines. And this is the recent one which in fact we launched Friday and Saturday. So this is a very recent one on internet and revenue models, which in its first instance focused on Bitcoin, of course, crowdfunding and mobile money. And hopefully by the end of this year we're going to do a second one here in London, so that's also good news. Richard already mentioned it. One of our research interests is alternatives in social media. We found out that it's quite easy to contemplate and to complain together about the dominance of Facebook and Twitter. But what are we going to do about it? And that question is also going to be important tonight in my presentation here. So we bring together these things and then put them out in a reader, and then also they're available, all of them, online as well. So we do both print and online publications. The question here is what are we gonna do after Snowden? And I think first of all we have to say that already a lot has been done, and this is in fact quite an early one. This is Ghostery, and Ghostery helps you to block annoying ads and stuff. In fact, everybody should have been using it for ages. So what I'm going to look at is kind of the politics and the practices of alternative platforms, because this is where my main interest lies. Of course, there are a lot of privacy scholars, and the Bill of Rights, of course, will inevitably focus on that. But I believe strongly that politics is informed by writing your own software, by collectively experiencing the alternatives through lived practices, right? We cannot withdraw just on abstract rights. These rights need to materialize. Otherwise, they are empty if they're not lived. This is another one. I don't know. Also an earlier one now, 2 years on the go. It's primarily continental European, German. The internet is our social network. I think it's very clear statement. This is called Friendica, and it's one of the many alternative social media platforms that have been developed over the past few years, and we've been bringing these initiatives together in the Unlike Us initiatives, you know, and at least in 2011, 12, 13, I would say up to June, precisely up to June 2013, when the Snowden revelations started to come out. This was pretty much, let's say, to quote Richard, the party line, right? This is where a lot of the activists were focused on. If you wanted to do something, of course, there was a whole array of free software, open source, but a lot of the efforts were focused on the social media. Why? Because we know that for average users these days, the internet equals social media. And if you look at all the stats, you know, this is in fact the reality for millions, if not tens or hundreds of millions of people, right? The internet is social media. And whether we like it or not, we can, you know, critique it. But this, for many activists, this at least was the starting point. And here you see Loria, which is a famous example from the Spanish movement, the movement of the squares, which is still big, used by you know, 100,000 of, and of course we know from last Saturday there was again a big demonstration and riots in Madrid. This movement is still very, very much alive, and this is their main coordination tool, right? A living social network. But you know, there is a really important moment. I already indicated June 2013, where a lot of things kind of stopped, and I think this is for at least for the hacker movement. This was a very, very important moment. This is the big camp, you know, where 5,000 or so hackers from all over the world came together. It was in August last year. It's called Observe, Hack, Make. It happens every 5 years, so it's not like the Chaos Computer Club, which is of course happens in Berlin and Hamburg every year after Christmas. But this one is a special one because it's outdoors, it's with tents. And there we saw that the hacker community for the very, very first time got completely split up into big factions, right? The one which continued to serve the security industry, and who continue to work for big firms, and a surprisingly big emerging you know, new generation of hackers, which said after Snowden, we cannot continue to work for the NSA, we cannot continue to work for the big firms and just say nothing and continue and go back to normal. This is not possible. So there is a real rupture inside the community, and this is really important to understand. And it all kind of came together symbolically on this with this action, where a few of the activists actually went to the sponsor tent, the main sponsor of this huge hacker event, Fox IT, for a more secure society, and sprayed on it NSA, right? And then they were kicked out by the organization, and so the whole event, which you know brings together so many kind of innocent male geeks around 18, 20 years old. No, I'm serious. We'll just come there to have a good time. And who suddenly found themselves, you know, in this highly politicized situation, right? And I think that is kind of where we are at the moment, right? This community is now highly politicized, and it's about time, right? But there are, of course, also other, you know, expressions of it. I love this theoretical expression We move from the joyous to the dark Deleuze for theory addicts here, where we can see a shift from let's say the corporate Deleuze to the revolutionary Deleuze, right? And it's all been mapped nicely, which terms we used to use and we now in the age of the dark Deleuze use now, right? But there, of course, we can start to collect many evidences, but yeah, what I like about this shift is also this. I'm now working with this guy to translate his work into English. He's a young guy from Berlin, and Richard Seemann is his name. He has this blog. It's called Kontrollverlust, and I really like it because I think he is really expressing, the new theoretical foundations of this new generation, the generation that grows up after Snowden. And after Snowden, he rightly starts with the loss of control. And that's the reality. And this is, if we want to make let's say, a materialist reading of the society, it's precisely we have to start there. That we've lost control, and then have to look how can we regain and how can we express our rights again. But this is good. This his main piece is called 10 Theses on the New Game. He calls it the new game. Yeah, so I'm inspired by that. In maybe half a year or so, we'll publish the English event. People since then have also started to map, and this mapping of everything that's going on starts to rapidly become quite complex. And in a way, this is already part of the problem. So there's an enormous amount of initiatives and opportunities and things that are happening, and this person has tried on all the different levels to map the new initiatives. On the level of free hardware, he starts here, of course, as a good materialist, starts with the base, free hardware, of course, and then OS, operating systems, networking, crypto routing, one-to-one applications, many-to-many scalability, native social applications, and then, of course, at the very top, there's interface and usability, and financing and dissemination, let's say, what we do here tonight. So this is in a way becoming now part of the problem, is a quite confusing field, right? Where to start? Where can we? Where is the politics here? We could say, well, the politics is in all the layers, but we also need to be able to summarize it and to politicize it, to translate this, which is still quite complex, layered levels, where a lot of smaller things are happening. We need to also bring it together. And we need to, so to say, summarize it, energize it into a story. And there maybe also the Bill of Rights helps us as an initiative to summarize the different energies that are out here, and the different, of course, design principles that are used for all these different layers and applications. Now I'm going to show you a few, but before that, I would like to say that there is, for me, it's very, very important to also politicize this level, right? Because we can already see with the response of corporations to Snowden that the cloud and cloud computing is not really questioned, right? But in a way, it is really part of the problem. So if this Bill of Cyber Rights is not addressing this centralization of telecommunication infrastructures, then, well, we're missing an essential part of it. Now, of course, we can talk with, together with our comrades Christian Fuchs, whether this should become a nationalized or EU operation to build up our own infrastructure. But that's then, for me, a thing we can debate when we're talking about strategies. If we need to dismantle the cloud, how precisely are we going to do that? Dismantle the cloud also means addressing and making explicit the centralization that has been going on. Centralization of infrastructures, right? Where companies have been benefiting from this, and also a lot of people have not been benefiting from it. And of course, this centralization can also not only be seen on the level of cloud and cloud computing, the concentration in immense data centers, but also if we look at the bandwidth and the traffic itself. Why is this picture of internet traffic still the way it is? Right? If the internet is and claims to be a decentralized network, a network of networks, why is this? We still have this enormous focus on the United States in terms of internet, and rightly so. Brazil was one of the first to start to complain about it and to say, well, we want our own cyber infrastructure, right? And this is precisely what is going to happen now. There is still a real dependency of Brazil and Latin America when it comes to traffic of the United States. So all the traffic that comes from Brazil has to go through the United States, and that needs to stop. And this is why I wrote here, rerouting of the global internet traffic. So the first thing they're going to do is to build a few cables up to Africa, to Europe, and also to Asia, right? You could also say, well, Brazil has kind of neglected its own regional infrastructure. And that's another way of looking at it. Infrastructure investments are really needed if we want to have another global internet architecture. And there's also a movement for that. It's called re-decentralization, right? And that's this is re-decentralized.org, and what I'm proposing here and what is going on right now as we speak is part precisely of this movement. And in the debates on social networks, we already had also some indication of how that future architecture could look like. And people have said the future architecture of the web should be a federated web. And the federated web is precisely what's missing here, because this is the centralized model. And we're rapidly going there. Think of data centers. People don't think of the internet necessarily as a centralized network, but that's precisely where it's going. This is the decentralized, and of course this is the ideological version, you could say. This is kind of the ideal version, the distributed version, but in fact it doesn't exist, right? Never has. No, never has. And that's why a lot of activists and software writers propose that we should have a federated web. And a federated web, emphasizes the voluntary connectivity between networks of networks, right? But in order to get there, of course, we should first make explicit what the current power relations are. Unfortunately, yeah, I wanted to have an image of the federated web, but I couldn't find it yet. I'm looking for it. I'm looking, how I can imagine the federated web, but hopefully soon someone will draw it for us. Together with Ned Rossiter, who's in Sydney, I've been working myself on a version of that story, and it's called Organized Networks. With the idea of organized networks, we emphasize that we want to move away from the networks that are built on weak ties, and that we emphasize the importance of the strong ties, right? So we believe in networks that are somewhat smaller, because Facebook has exploited our desire to connect to the friends of our friends of our friends, right? And they have really exploited that. Yeah. And in the neoliberal times, they've suggested that if you have many friends, one of them will help you out when you're without a job, or some kind of or one of them will be your ideal partner, or whatever is out there, right? And we've projected that onto that immense network, and if we grow it, then we'll be safe. And I've noticed that my 12-year-old son already has over 500 friends, right? Now, how is that possible? Of course, that's not because he has 500 friends, but because the algorithm, keeps on suggesting people, right? So this is the internal logic, and this logic, in my opinion, is pretty sick and starts to work against us. And this is why we're now working on the design principles of these much stronger and smaller organized networks. I want to now show a few of the examples of platforms and initiatives that have come out. This is Peter Zunder. You know him. He's the founder of the Pirate Bay, but also of Flutter, of course. Flutter, the system where you can pay content producers a small amount. And this Amnesty is their new initiatives coming from Stockholm, for secure communication. It's very quite interesting. Over the last half year, 9 months or so, we've really seen an immense growth of these anonymous apps, and that's in itself is encouraging. There's many of them. This one is called Secret. There's Keybase, which probably this one is going to be quite successful. There's Snapchat. Well, you all know what is going on, right? And this kind of it happens as a software, even a commercial response, let's say, to the earlier anonymous movements and the desire to be a collective and to communicate anonymously. I love this this new media project. This is done by Mediamatic in Amsterdam, where you design your own mask. And this is Moby. Moby is also involved. He has a whole series of photos, and he has done, I think in LA somewhere, a photo shoot with all sorts of masks. I find that interesting. This is a much older project of 2009 by Nobotic Research. They've also produced a really nice small booklet with the same title, Opaque Presence. And that's, in my view, the most advanced, theory when it comes to masks, metamorphosis, becoming anonymous. And in fact, there's a lot of inspiring literature. You don't have to go to Nietzsche or Canetti, but anyway, there's an enormous amount of writing, and very, very interesting writing about masks that you can find in the literature of anthropology, which can help us, to understand more what the future design principles and architectures for anonymous communication should look like. Here another example. This is a bag where you can put your phone in, and then it doesn't. The signals don't go out. So it's kind of a secure bag. So if you are in a situation where you don't want others to know where you are, you put it in this small bag. I like that. Okay, and I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.